folks. Welcome in, welcome in. We've had a few technical headaches because you may notice I haven't broadcast for about a month. I'm feeling a little bit rusty, and I'm not good at this. I'm a fucking giant boomer, and OBS is not friendly to people like me. Hopefully, you all heard the opening song, although I'm getting the impression that some of you didn't. Perhaps none of you did. But welcome back. Welcome back to our broadcast. It's a special episode today, and we have a special guest. I want to talk agriculture with our Irish import, Paddy, because he knows much more about it than me. And it's a common topic here on all these right-wing back channels that we now have to inhabit since being kicked off Facebook. But people, they want to get back to the earth. They want to farm, and we're gonna find out how possible it is today. Here's a hint: it's not so fucking easy. But as always, in the comments, tell me if you can hear anything. If there's bad sound, I need to fix it. So far, so good. All right, Paddy, how you doing?
Good. How are you? It's good to be here.
Oh, good, man. So as I promoted, I do have a million, I think, easily multi-million-dollar idea that can fundamentally change the cattle industry in the U.S. And I want to get to it, but not right off the bat. You know, I want to save this moneymaker for a few minutes in at least, because I want people to have to wait that long to get rich. And they can wait.
You have to build up the atmosphere, you know.
Oh, thank
Create
you.
some
Yeah.
anticipation.
I want you to tell me if it is in fact the idea with the possibilities I think it has, because I'm pretty goddamn sure it is. But first of all, let's tell the folks about yourself. This is going to be this is not an Ochs report technically. This is for Paddy's new channel. Your farming tips and tricks. Explain for me.
Sure. It's still kind of. I mean, it's still pretty early and half baked. But I started a YouTube channel. I thought I love talking about farming and I love talking about cows, and it's like what I do every day. And you kind of get into that mode where you're surrounded by other people that know a lot about it, so you kind of miss out. Sorry, I'm hearing an echo. You kind of take some of that stuff for granted. And just talking about it is something I really enjoy doing. And and I
I'm
was
sorry.
like,
Let me fix the echo
there
real
seems
quick. We got shit, man. There's always something. Hey girl, would you close that door, please, while I fix the sound quality on this? Thank you. Let's turn that off. How about now, folks? Have we fixed the echo? All right. Switching to headphones. I apologize, folks. Okay, Paddy. Testing sound.
You sound great to me.
Oh shit, man. I'm sorry, folks. For some reason, the video phone feed is only coming out of another speaker.
Testing. Do I still echo? Someone
All right, Paddy, try one more time.
Am I echoing now?
Fuck.
Do you want me to quit Zoom and restart it?
Okay,
folks. Oh, someone said it's good.
Tell me if the echo is... It's good? I think that fixed it. All right, good. We'll go back. I will...
In between
as we were saying, tell me about the new agriculture channel, so people can learn a thing or two about the important things in life that they may soon have to embrace, whether they want to or not.
Yeah, so I mean, and at work, I'm kind of... I like talking about agriculture. I like agriculture in general, like all aspects of it. I'm biased, and if you follow my channel, you'll figure out pretty fast I'm very biased towards dairy, because that's what I do every day. And the people I work with are big commercial dairies, and I grew up with the, you know, the small scale, do it yourself, kind of like figure things out. Um, you know, have a little bit of everything, and I still really appreciate that, and I enjoy it. And I used to work as a private veterinarian in an area that had a lot of people doing that kind of thing, and I saw a lot of people, you know, either struggling or fumbling, and I was there as a resource as well as like a, you know, as their veterinarian to help them out. But I guess I enjoy that part of it, like working with people that want to farm and people that want to, you know, kind of do their own thing, get back to the traditional idea of producing your own food. Because we've really, and it's different for me because I grew up in like very, very rural Ireland, which is very different to rural America. I mean, it's similar, but like still, rural Ireland is very small back when I grew up and very, very sheltered. But you know, so everyone that I knew and grew up with had some exposure to agriculture. And I feel like today in society, we've really become disconnected from what we're eating. And that's not really a healthy symptom of society. Like if you don't know how this food is getting on your table and what you needed to do to get it there, you're not appreciating it. Now food has just become like a transaction. Like you Google Pay it off your phone, you buy these processed meals. Like it's now this transaction and there's no longer an appreciation for it. And I think that's kind of, you know, I don't think that's healthy and I don't think that's the ideal. And I see people wanting the information. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people who get misled down different routes and they go vegan or they go whatever. And not that they're making, I mean, I don't think vegan is a good idea because it directly destroyed my livelihood. But, you know, they might go down these routes without realizing or understanding what it means or what they're doing. And I always strike up conversations with people and like even something totally basic that I say, they're kind of like, whoa, I never knew that. I'm like, oh, I don't, you know, I'm like, oh, I don't really eat organic products because, you know, XYZ, like it's not healthy or it's not different. Like when you buy organic, this is what you're buying. And they're like, oh, I just assumed it was something else. I don't know where you got that assumption from. So I don't know, I enjoy talking about it. I felt like there's a market for that information out there and I've seen other channels doing it. And I guess what I have is expertise. I like have studied it and read about it and like talk about it all the time. So I was like, well, I have this background info and expertise to offer. Why not, you know, in front of a video camera, start doing it and see what happens.
Yeah,
That's what I
exactly.
am. So I just started this whole idea. I started a YouTube channel.
People don't know if you're not from the country. It's people don't think of it as too complicated, but you know it is. It's more than hard work. But with this, everyone wants to homestead now, and
Uh-huh.
maybe we can help them out. But you know, just growing up, like I'm from the country as well. I'm not a farmer, but not exactly uh, foreign to farm work. I remember I called out of high school sports practice because the cows got loose, and even in my rural town, that was subject of some joking later, right? But you're working on an actual dairy, and now there's farming, there's some growing shit, and there's an operation. To have some of the comforts that we really enjoy as part of a civilized society, like fucking milk, that takes more than I think people are typically willing to put into it. So I guess the question is, if we're out here and things have gone so wrong that the cities aren't the place to be, is it just going to be a few of us that get to enjoy a glass of milk every now and again, or is farming going to be accessible to people that can work hard enough at it?
And like part of what I kind of wanted to try and do was open that subject up a bit because it's intimidating from the outside. It's not easy. Like you do need some advice. You kind of need to know what you're doing. Like you're working with animals. It's not like a 3D printer or a robot or machine. You buy it, you oil it, you like turn on, it runs. And that's part of what I like about working with animals. Like they're biologic units. They tell you very, very quick if you're doing a good job or you're not. Like a lot of people perceive like certain farms or certain farm types. They're like, oh, this farm is so big, it must be terrible. The cows must be suffering. If cows, pigs, suffering and doing badly, they would very, very quickly show you that in your like no money because your animals aren't going to make weight, they're not going to grow, they're not going to do whatever. You know, they respond very rapidly to the environment you put them into. So usually the more, and it's like, I suppose it's a capitalism thing, but like the more efficient and profitable a farm is, it's not a like perfect measure, but it actually can give you an idea of like how well this farm treats their animals because that's how you do well. And if you're going into it as somebody that doesn't know, um, you know, there's not a lot, but there's also a lot. It's one of those subjects where like you can do a little bit with a little bit of knowledge, and then to push the envelope, it can get complicated very, very quickly. So I kind of wanted to go into the basics first. And like you just said, if there is a scenario where, you know, we can't go to the grocery stores anymore, can people now no longer get milk? Well, I think we've become disconnected and we feel like we can't milk a cow or we can't milk a sheep or a goat anymore. But I want to kind of show you that you can. You just need to realize that and figure out how you can do it and put a bit of elbow grease in. And, you know, I think it'll be possible. You mightn't be turning profit, like you're not going to sell it, definitely. You could
So the basics then.
become self-sustaining.
What would I need if I want to get myself a cow and I'm thinking
Yep.
about it? How much land do I
Okay.
need? Does there have to be some like good water source that from a creek or something, or could I do this with a yard, or do I need a farm?
So you can 100% do it in like a pen in a yard. You don't need, but then you would need a forage supply. So you need hay, you need grasses, you know, you need your like grain meals, you know what I mean? So you don't have to graze your cow. You can keep them. You know, I guess what makes it easier for people to understand is you think of the way horses are stabled. Like obviously cows eat differently and more than horses, but like you can keep cows like that. It's, you know, that's possible. I mean, there's cows behind me right now that are in these dirt lots. There's like 3 or 4 kind of pet cows that live out the back. Um, and they have like, I mean, they have like maybe 2 acres of like a lot that doesn't have a lot of grass, but they just get fed hay every day. Like they're super, super, super low maintenance. They're not producing anything right now because they're kind of retired pets, but you know what I mean? Like it's not as, you don't need green fields, you don't need a thing, but then you do need a nutrient source. You need your forages, and that's either you know, a lot of like the way commercial farms will go is they'll either buy that in for the best price or they'll grow their own and chop it and process it to make that cheaper. But if you're talking 1 or 2 cows, if you have a source or a farm that, you know, sells alfalfa hay or, you know, wheat hays or grass silages, all those kind of fodders, you can put together that diet, and then you can buy commercial like mixes, just like how you go to your, you know, your tractor supply, your pet store. You can buy things like that for your cows, like those supplemental feeds. You definitely need a little bit of facilities though if you want to be able to handle your cows. Cows, I mean, it's the same as any dog or cat, right? They need they need certain vaccines. They might be wormed. You might need to like lock them up and check them out, you know. So you definitely want to think about how you're going to handle them. Like you can halter train them if you need to. So you need to be able to handle them and process them. And I guess, and then yeah, water. They always need water, especially dairy cows. Milk is like 80% water, so they drink a lot of water a day if they're making milk. But it doesn't have to be human drinking water, but it has to be clean water, obviously. And then constant water supply. So like, I guess what it is similar, it's easier for people to comprehend maybe is that person who owns a horse, but less hassle than a horse because cows are not as fragile. Horses are very temperamental. You look at them sideways and they like keel over dead. They're much better at getting themselves off. I guess they're a bit more delicate.
Yeah, people don't realize that a cow is a durable thing, but at the same time, you have to keep them happy, or you're not going to have, well, milk especially, and it's got to have a certain rigorous diet, right? Or the beef is just trash. But you know, it occurs to me that there's a reason that throughout history, I mean, currency was cattle. It still is in like half of Africa and whatnot, right?
Oh yeah,
So if
the
farming
dowries you'd
becomes
send cattle
a
when you marry
necessity,
someone.
uh, I could see the return of rustling. You know, I could see a real rustling golden age coming up. I think it's actually one of the first things that would happen.
Cattle rustling, is that like when you steal them?
Oh yeah, you're Irish. So in America, in every movie made before 1962, there is cattle rustling, and it was a really big problem. I think it's something we wonder about as a culture.
So I don't know how much you know about like Irish history and Irish politics, but you know there's like a border between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. And if you're in
Sure,
Northern Ireland,
I'm fairly well versed in it. All of our viewers might not be.
you have you been through Ireland? Have you been through Shannon?
No, I've never been to Ireland. I'm told I'm genetically Irish, but I've never had the test. I have no reason to go
Okay.
yet.
I'm not getting the test because I don't want to know how inbred I am. It'll be like this tiny pocket. Like I already have like 2 genetically inherited things. I'm like, I don't even know how inbred I am. It's a
That's
small
the
gene
reality of the
pool.
island life right
But
there. People don't know.
yeah, yeah. But North and South Ireland. So Northern Ireland is still in the UK. The south of Ireland got independence and is a republic since like 1930. But so there's technically it's a soft border now. It used to be a hard border, but now it's a soft border. So you can just drive across. But if you just keep driving, you can make it to the UK. And the UK has different, agricultural prices and whatever. Like if you take your animals to a beef processing factory in England, it might be different, or in Northern Ireland, I mean, and like taxes are different. And there's different reasons. But there is like a thing of people who live on that border will smuggle cattle across back and forth the border, and they're like, and in Ireland and Europe, it's not a thing in the US yet, but it's coming in. Every animal has to have like a passport, like a unique identifier. And that's for biosecurity. Biosecurity is a big, big deal in cattle. Like I know the human health side didn't do a great job dealing with biosecurity in these last couple of months. It's been like a lot of back and forth and a lot of confusion. If coronavirus was an animal disease, you can guarantee it would have been much better dealt with. We're very good at like locking down things like that because there's a lot of really devastating diseases in the animal world. So biosecurity is a big thing. But when I lived in Northern Ireland, there was these stories of people who'd like cut tags off of cows and put in tags off of animals that had like dropped dead and they just collected and never reported, and they'd like switch them and like smuggle them and then like sell them up north. But that's like border town kind of shenanigans,
Yeah,
it's
that
like
sounds
border
almost third
crossing
world. But I mean,
smuggling.
the UK and Ireland, they learned their lesson in the '90s when there was mad cow. I mean, I'm a little bit older than
Yeah,
maybe some watching, but you got to remember, and everyone was scared as fuck of mad cow.
yeah,
Like it's a strange thing where it's just a protein that kills you, but it fucking will. And I think America's
it's
never had that
got over it.
happen yet.
Yeah,
But it's
I was here in
it
like
could.
2014, and I remember there's 2 types of mad cow. There's like the atypical form, which is just an old cow gets it randomly, and that's not a big deal. That's not like an outbreak. That's just like a once-off freak. So that's not the big deal one. But I was here in like 2014, and Ireland had like one of these freak ones, and like one of the vets I was here talking to was like, "Oh my God," she was like, you're like you guys over there, like you have all this disease." I was like, "It's one fucking case. It's not a big deal." But when I know foot and mouth disease, do you remember that one when it hit the UK in like 2008? No, but yeah, the last time foot and mouth hit the UK, foot and mouth virus is a big, big deal. I remember when back in like March when Corona started, one of my supervisors at work was like, "Oh, he was like, yeah, this disease is whatever. Sounds like it's a big deal." But he was like, and people are like running out to buy toilet paper. But like, if foot and mouth virus hit the United States, it would make this whole Corona thing look like a sneeze. Like everything would be shut down. But like not human movement, but the food chain would be shut down. Like instead
That's
of going
something
to
I think
the
about a lot.
grocery store for toilet paper, you'd have people like shooting each other over eggs in the grocery store.
That's kind of the point here is that our every network on Earth, as far as supply and transport goes, are very fragile, and that can be disrupted by
Yep.
people usually think of politics these days, but something as simple as an animal disease that causes things to grind to a freaking halt. I mean, back in
Yeah.
1991 in Russia, people what really kicked off the end of the USSR was truck drivers weren't delivering shit. That was the straw that broke that camel's back, and it can cause big changes very quickly, which is why we're talking about farming right now. And I recommend you get some basic knowledge. I recommend you go to Patty's channel, which please promote again for the people right now on Telegram and YouTube.
I'll promote it now. Okay, I call I just made it on YouTube, so and subscribe. But I am advertising on Instagram, Telegram, all that thing. Right now I called it Bow Vet, so bow like for bovine, but also in Irish. So I speak Irish as well as English a little bit. In Irish, the word for cow is bow, like B-O, with a little accent. So I thought it was clever. One of my friends was like, "Oh, you should call it Bow Vet, like cow vet." So I called it Bow Vet. I don't know. I might that people like don't get it. My sister was like, "That's dumb. Nobody will get that." She's like, "Nobody understands Irish. Like your market isn't Ireland. It's like anybody." But yeah, it's
Yeah,
bow vet farming, I think, or bow vet homesteading, something like that.
well, I
And
think it's very
I just put
cool.
up
I
a
think there's
video
going to be
on. So I'm
a
going to do
huge
like,
thing this year.
yeah, farming and homesteading and like people getting a bit of awareness. But I just put up a video on breed selection. So like, you know, there's like hundreds of different cow breeds. And the video ended up being longer than I expected. I guess it was my first one. But I split it into dairy and beef. So I talked through like the different common dairy breeds and like the advantages of kind of what each one is good at and like what to know and be aware of if you purchase that one. And then kind of like what would suit your needs. And then I'm going to do another one maybe tomorrow on like beef breeds. So the same thing, but going through the beef. And then people cross them a lot. Like dairy and beef crosses are a good idea if you want a bit of both. Like you can have a cow from milk who's a dairy cow, so she produces a lot of milk. And then you can use a beef bull so that her offspring aren't like skinny little dairy and beefier. So there's lots of things you can do that way. So that was my intro. And then I was going to move into like kind of what you asked earlier, like what do you need to get a cow? Like what, and then if you're going looking at a cow and buying them, like what do you look for? Like if you've never looked at a cow outside of like your car window before, like and you walk up to one, like what do you want to look for to make sure this cow's healthy, it's normal, it's a good purchase, all that kind of stuff. I was going to do that and then go into what you should have and what you should be prepared for. And then I guess as it goes on, I might get more complicated and like delve into, I don't know, some of the more intricate stuff, like your different strategies for all kinds of, I guess, performance targets.
Well, that's actually exactly the question I had for you. Really, the only question I had today. That is my million, perhaps in the lower $1 billion idea range. So because I'm having sound issues, I'm not going to be able to hear you real well for the next minute. But I wanna get your opinion. And this will be shown to you manually, but for the folks at home, I'm going to have some background images here so we can follow along. All right. So first of all, being a bovine expert, I'm sure you're well familiar with Wagyu beef.
Yeah. Okay, let's do it. I have a lot of thoughts about Wagyu.
All right. Well, hold those thoughts because, sir, it's going to get so much better. So it is my understanding that you can obtain a Wagyu cow from Japan either through trickery or bribery. They're a little bit reluctant to let these things go. But once it leaves Japan, it can't really truly be considered Wagyu because it's got to do with location. It's only from the Wagyu province or Perfunctory or whatever they call it. That really, it's like champagne from France, right? It has to be. Okay, fine. But if you do get that cow out of there, and people can, then it retains the same genetics to give you this beautiful marbling on the beef that makes it the premium beef of the world. The Japanese had cows forever. They were using them to pull carts, and it had this mutation that no one knew about because they weren't eating those things. Till the Europeans got there, like, holy fuck, these are delicious, and they figured some shit out.
Yeah, they taste good.
But, yeah, exactly. So you're welcome, Japan, and I think you owe us just a couple of cows. Thanks for that little bit of white knowledge. But in America, right, we have something called Black Angus. Now that is, oh shit, here we go, little Black Angus. This is the cows we have on my farm back home, right? I think this is, I don't know, but I'm going to say this is the most popular breed in America. Certainly one of our main ones, right?
Probably is. Most popular beef. Holstein is more popular than overall. But that's dairy.
Well, I know what makes people happy. It's good beef, and it's seen as, you know, an American symbol. All this stuff. You pay a little bit more for Black Angus. Here's the $1 million idea, dog. No one has done this. I want to do it, but I'm not a farmer. I think possibly you can, and I'm giving you my eternal permission to do so.
To go and do this?
Yeah, look at this. You combine the two. All you have to have are 2 cows. All right? Black Wangus hybrid beef. Tell me that won't sell. Tell me that this buttery beef won't transform the United States market. It doesn't exist. There is no Black Wangus cow.
Black Wangus. It's a catchy name.
Black Wangus. It can fit in anyone's mouth. Black Wangus.
And like I seen you had a picture up of the steak, so like the way the fat is all like riddled. That's like the unique part, right? It's like this fat. Yeah, it's like usually the fat is just like around the sides, and then it's tough. That's like what makes it amazing or it tastes good. Yeah, Black Wangus is catchy. I have seen, so like you can't get a Wagyu cow here, but you can get Wagyu semen. So you can artificially inseminate your cow with Wagyu semen. So if you had an Angus cow, you could ship semen straws frozen under like liquid nitrogen, and inseminate your cows and start getting these black Angus calves. I've seen people do it already for Jersey and some other breeds, but I haven't seen anyone do it in Angus.
That's what I'm saying. It's a completely untapped market. It's
Yeah.
you know, get a line of steakhouses behind it. I'm seeing in the comments something very disturbing. Somebody says Wangus already exists, and I didn't know that. I thought I
I
was
don't know.
part of the world.
I've only seen Jersey Wagyu, but I kind of work in the dairy area. But I want to say and some people probably know this. You've probably heard this with Wagyu. Part of the Wagyu thing is Wagyu just means like a Japanese cow. It's not really a specific breed. It's like this weird mix of like lots and lots of Europeans, like you said, lots of European breeds that they've like turned into now the Japanese cow. Um, but to make it really good tasting with the marbling, you need to do the Kobe beef thing. And the Kobe beef is when they feed them beer, they like massage them. They don't let them like they keep them in like little pens, just like you said, out your back, so they don't like run around. So they're not like making their muscle all tough and like strong, I guess. You know, they kind of make them healthy and fat, feed them some beer in the hot months when they eat less, and they feed them corn in the winter, I guess. And like you're meant to
I think that's the secret. Then
and like keep them
we,
very low stress. So if you want
we
to
have
do a
to
little
we have to stick to
backyard or
Kobe
spa,
beef,
yeah.
a Kobe beef hybrid.
But like
Uh,
the people I've seen trying to do white Wagyu, either I've seen people do it in Ireland or I've seen people try to do it here. I guess they're getting like greedy and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna get some Wagyu semen and like throw it into some cows and like throw those calves out in like a pasture and just like hope and make loads of money off them.
yeah, that's what I
They're
was talking
not
about playing
doing
with.
the real Kobe thing. They're not committing. You need someone who can like, yeah, you need to commit because then you can market it as the real Kobe beef. Right now, if you buy it at a restaurant or a store, oops, sorry, and it's called Wagyu, they're not guaranteeing that it was massaged and fed beer.
Right, because it comes with a file. It comes with a picture of the cow. You know,
Really?
was it loved? Here's the beer it drank. All that stuff. In a real restaurant, like, you get that $200 plate. You know, there's some stuff
Yeah,
that comes with it. But I want the
yeah.
certified American version of that. But if Wangus is out there, we got to come up with a different name. It
I
has
guess.
to be Kobe. We can't call it Black Kobe. We'll get canceled by the end of this episode. But
I
it's
didn't
the
even think
combination
of
is
that. I'm
there.
really bad at American. What? What you say last?
Sorry, I've got to keep muting you manually because the sound is so bad. But I said we'll get canceled by the end of the
Yeah,
episode if we name this wrong. But I know the money is
yeah,
there for those that seek it,
yeah.
and there's a market. But we just why don't we have their cattle? I know colonization is evil now, but can we get some? We're coming, Japan. We're coming.
I mean, you could you can buy semen. You could buy embryos. Just like
Yeah.
convince someone to
All
send you
right.
an
So
embryo.
I want like, how does one obtain a gallon? I mean, I know that you have to. There's people that do this. That's a perhaps more unpleasant part of the job, but I definitely have access to the Angus. I just don't
Okay.
have that. And I know how much would a big thing of Kobe jizz go for? It's got
I
to
don't
be
think
in
it's
the 50,000. I don't know.
no. It's not that expensive. It's definitely not that expensive. I've seen people use it. Like I mean, there's plenty of like sire companies out there that specialize in different bull semen. So whatever bull you want, they have it, in their portfolio. But it's definitely not more than like 50 or $100 because I've seen people put that semen into cows. And like when you inseminate a cow, it's not 100% that the cow's gonna be pregnant. It might be 60% if you're doing well, and then there's all these other factors like did you put the semen in at the right time? Pregnancy rates are not. It's not like bang and you're done. So the semen can't be that expensive.
Right.
No, we can get it. We can definitely get Kobe semen. But if you want the full Kobe cow, you could get someone in Japan to send you an embryo from a cow. So you just need to flush, do the embryo flush, just like in humans, all this IVF stuff, we do that in cows all the time. So you just have to flush an embryo out of a cow, put it into like your little media and like ship it in whatever special packaging and bring it to the US. But it counts as biologic material, so you'd have to get Homeland Security clearance to bring it in. But do it as a research project, and you're fine. You just need a little research proposal for some Wagyu breeding, and you can bring an embryo in and then put it into a donor cow, a recip.
Well, shit, I think you're right. It's all about that research grant. I mean, the government will literally pay me money to abscond with Japanese beef semen. This is opening a lot of
Yeah.
possibilities. That's what I want the people to know. Yeah, think outside the box here. Everyone's freaking out. Everyone thinks they're going to have to farm, but you don't just have to farm. Get rich. The possibilities are endless. This is a whole a way of life that people stop thinking about, and we have to start again. I don't know what Irish butter is, but I know my wife pays a fucking lot for it.
The- So my first job when I was out of high school was at a Kerrygold factory, boxing that butter, and just literally like standing at a production line and like putting it, like wrapping the boxes and like putting it and like stacking them on pallets and like wrapping them or whatever, and then just like shipping them out. And that was like my job for 2 summers. I did it, and it was like 12-hour shifts at this factory line. It like sucked, but they used to give us free butter if we'd like butter that like printed wrong or whatever. They would give us free butter, which was great. Um, but Irish butter is like more yellow. The reason it's more yellow is because the cows in Ireland eat mainly grass, and it's not because it's healthier for the cows, it's because it's cheaper. Because Ireland's very wet, so there's lots and lots of grass. A 100% grass diet isn't healthier for a cow. When people talk about like grass fed is like a technique the beef tastes in a certain way. It's not actually like better for the environment or healthier necessarily. It's just a technique to finish those animals. In Ireland, they grass feed because there's so much grass and it's the cheapest forage if that's what you have, but it doesn't produce as much milk and beef as like proper diets. Because a cow's diet should not be 100% grass. Like they don't eat grass every day out in the wild in nature. There isn't like lush fields of grass everywhere for them to eat. They eat like shoots and leaves and stems and all that kind of stuff, you know. But but grass produces keratin, which then gives like this pigment, so their milk and their butter comes out a little bit more yellow. So then Kerrygold marketed in all these other countries is like this beautiful Irish butter. When in reality, it's, I mean, it's good quality butter, but like if you just buy the Kroger butter, it's really not that different. I think you need to get that killer marketing strategy. That's why I think Black Wangus is a good. You know, you got the marketing down, you got the name ready to go.
The people want black Wangus, but that's what people aren't considering is these giant obvious things. That never occurred to me, and it's so evident now that that makes perfect sense. But there is no environmentally friendly farming; it doesn't exist. But so the more sort of industrialized farming gets, oftentimes the better it gets for the environment, which is a paradox that people aren't familiar with. They're not just eating grass; they're eating feed, but they're not tearing up a field at the same time. You know what I mean? That's erosion is as bad
You
sort of pollution or environmental damage as anything.
you're well versed on this. That's a good point. Yeah, because usually I have to like, break that stuff down for people. Not like even people that are like, oh, I don't think farming is bad for the environment, but I don't know why. But yeah, you're right. Like um, eroding soil is bad. What's worse for soil is the monocropping. Like when you just have like cereals that you put in and you take them out and you put them in, and you take them out, and you're just destroying the top layer the whole time. People talk a lot about regenerative agriculture lately because cows are very, very good at sequestering carbon into the soil by their grazing. Like when they graze it down and the grass grows back up and they graze it down, they like initiate this carbon recycling like cycle. But if you are on wet ground or bad ground and you let your cows run across it and poach it with their hooves and everything, then that undoes all your progress. But the larger farms are much more like environmentally efficient because their like efficiency of production is so much greater. Like their ratio of output to input is a lot higher because they produce more milk and they produce more meat for less input. So every whatever kg of methane you release, they're producing more for what is the same. If you go to like a smaller intensity farm, um, and you look at like how much methane are producing, they're getting returned at that end point. So the larger farms do a much better job, and that's why the U.S. is the most environmentally efficient country in the world for agriculture. Like the carbon dioxide budget or output of the U.S. is like for agriculture is like 3% of the total carbon dioxide emissions of, or not carbon dioxide, carbon, but agriculture in the U.S. makes like 3% of the total carbon output budget. And that's because of how efficient the US is. But if you go to India, have a huge dairy industry now too, but like their dairy is much, much less efficient. So their environmental output per kg of milk produced is a lot worse. You know what I mean?
One more quick question before I take questions from the comments, which there've been a few. The India thing,
Oh,
they're
wow.
less efficient, but they ain't eating the cows. What happens to a dairy cow, which they're fully available to the Indians? They can drink the milk. When it gets old, it ain't squirting out the milk so much anymore. Is somebody eating that? Is it dog food? Is it glue? What happens?
I really don't know. I was in India once years ago, and I saw the cows there, and I saw like I worked when I was a vet student. I went to like a dog hospital. Well, it was a not a dog hospital, like a rescue hospital, and it was cool. We like volunteered there, and they would bring in cows, and we had to deal with the cows that were like roaming the streets because a lot of their cows roam the streets, right? But I was in Rajasthan, which is, I guess, a bit more traditional and old-fashioned, like as the province, and they legally enforced no eating beef. So you could not buy, sell, or eat beef. It was illegal. And then from what I saw when I was there, in the couple of cities I visited, all of the cow farming was kind of that like individual cow that like roams around the city and like shows up at someone's house and they like milk it and then it goes off on its way again and they're like, thanks cow. And like, you know, because they're sacred, they don't like, you're not allowed, you aren't meant to like restrain and keep these cows. You're meant to let them do their thing. And if they hung out of your house, that was considered a blessing. But apparently, so I never saw, because India now produce like the third most milk in the world or something. Like the US produces the most, and then maybe China, and then India. I might be wrong, I've forgotten because it's changing because China's dairy industry is like exponentially increasing. But I know India are one of the largest producers in the world of milk. Um, but that has to come from somewhere, and I haven't looked into it. I feel like there is places where they have larger farms, like organized, efficient farms. I know some of the southern provinces are like less traditional. And I know in some of these places it isn't illegal to sell or ship for beef. Maybe you shouldn't eat it, but you could like ship it to somewhere to get turned into dog food. So I think there's some kind of like legal fluffing that way where you can like move your animals and then it's not illegal to do something about it. Because you're right, there's dairy animals, and I talk about it in my YouTube videos, my new channel, but dairy animals are not production. Like when they're framed, they're tall, they're lanky, they're kind of angled in. They don't have a lot of muscle, and when they're a couple of years old, after they've done their dairy thing for a while, like they're not going to taste good. They usually go to ground beef or dog food, right? So there has to be something like that. But really, India is something I haven't cracked. I don't know that much about their dairy industry. I've heard a lot about what China is doing because a lot of US guys have been like kind of like picked up and flown over to give some talks and like help them out and then flown back, you know. But India, they have to be doing something. They have to have some kind of formula or something.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So before we wrap up our surf and turf episode here, I want to take some questions from the comments. And the first one I see is Beefalo. What's your verdict on buffalo? I mean, should we be breeding them? Should we be having them? It's kind of a weird meat, but I know people are eating it. I'm not, but people are.
I it's kind of a new thing to me too. Like obviously buffalo don't exist in Ireland, but like this beefalo thing here is interesting. It's apparently leaner and like healthier. As I mean, I don't think animal fats are unhealthy. I'm like all about that carnivore diet thing that people do. Um, but apparently it's lower in cholesterol and it's lower in some of these fatty acids, while still being high in protein. And apparently it tastes quite good despite the fact that it's leaner. Because when we think about like leaner cuts of beef, yeah, it might be like high in protein, but it's not as nice to eat as a steak, right? So apparently the beefalo thing is pretty tasty and has all those attributes. And then they're meant to be like a cool breed in terms of like not being very susceptible to diseases and like not getting lame or not as whatever as our modern cow because they have, I guess, that resiliency from the buffalo. But I know they tried that beefalo thing for a while, and the first couple of generations like fell flat and like weren't fertile, weren't like productive. And then somebody hit like a home run in the right proportions, and was it a male buffalo to a female cow or something? And they now have like this cool breed. I mean, and then some people are actually buffalo farming. That's like a new hipster thing to like buy a buffalo protein bar. So I don't know. Maybe that is a. It might be one of those things that like goes up and then it fizzles out, or it might keep going. It's hard to know with all these like trends, but it seems interesting.
I think it'll stick. It's
I've
just a cool thing to
tried
get.
the
I mean,
protein bars.
somebody I saw they put it in just damn buffalo near my place back in Indiana, and it was just something to see. Like, what the fuck is this? It's a goddamn bison. But you know, there's animals around.
Yeah.
Somebody nearby them had a giraffe and an elephant that they would use in commercials. And no, it wasn't a giraffe. It was a camel. Excuse me, which are fucking huge. They're like bigger than giraffes.
Yeah.
The two hump kind of fucking Mongolian one.
That's what I love about America. People just do the craziest stuff. You guys just like buy a tiger and make a Netflix series about it.
There's a shit ton of tigers out there. It's not all like Miami drug dealers. It's just like dudes in Ohio. I don't know if you remember. It was maybe 6 years ago now. when somebody who was just an animal enthusiast had a farm with every kind of species on it. It wasn't a zoo, but it was just his deal. And he got sad and he shot himself in the head. But before he did,
Yeah.
he just go on, go, flee. And there were goddamn lemurs all up in Ohio trees. It was a hell of a thing.
I remember reading about that. That was like, yeah, because there's all these people who were like home and saw like tigers in their garden and stuff, and like they were out shooting them for days, right? That was insane.
That's my point, folks. The possibilities are endless. You can have a lemur farm. Like there's no law against that. There probably fucking should be, but get out there.
Oh, but don't
Do
get
it.
meerkats. I learned this. If you have meerkats, I think it's meerkats, they carry plague. So you're not meant to sell meerkats. And some people are like, oh, stick it to the government. I'm going to get a meerkat if I want it. And then they end up getting plague. So I think it was meerkats. I forget, but one of those like cute little guys in Africa or whatever. Don't buy some of them. So even though, you know, you might be like, oh, I don't want the government telling me what to do. Sometimes some of those are good suggestions because if you bring a meerkat home, your kid is going to get plague.
Yeah, it's thick. Like so, a cuteness of an animal is like no barometer for whether you should have it. Three-toed sloths. If you get bit by the same mosquito as him, you fucking dengue fever, just like that. You're done. But anyway, so yeah, man, thanks for joining. We're just a bit shy of an hour, but unless you have anything final you want to add, I will check the comments one time for final questions. Anybody got any black Wangus for sale? Soon, soon, folks, it's coming. Ostrich burgers, I support it. Yeah, folks, thanks for tuning in. Please check out Patty. He does more than farm. Listen, he is a social butterfly on Telegram, and follow his work. It's amazing stuff. It's funny. It's informative, and you will be good at agriculture.
Thank you.
All right, so tune in. I will be back tomorrow. We have. Well, I'm not going to talk about it because this is for Patty's channel, really. I will be back tomorrow. Please tune in and check this amazing content out on Patty's new channel, YouTube, Telegram. Seek out the Ochs Report on Telegram. Murder the Media. We'll have the links for you. Thanks for joining us, folks, and thank you, Patty. Great episode.
Thank you. For sure. Thank you very much.
Cheers, buddy.